Hello and welcome to Ommmpreneur podcast. I'm so very excited to have Lena today, a twice corporate dropout, which is pretty exciting, I think. So for any corporates out there, you will definitely enjoy this podcast. And as originally known as the LinkedIn baddie, and LinkedIn is not the area that I'm really pro or familiar with. So I'm very excited to hear about everything that's going on there. And she has built her brand by openly talking about her past failures. And yeah, she's telling the stories, and it has won the hearts of her audience. She helps clients to infuse their baddie personality into the content, and not just on LinkedIn, but also on Instagram and TikTok. I'm actually TikTok live now, so let's see what the TikTokers will say about this. And she's obsessed about the results and gets incredible results for her clients. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm also very excited. And the first question is why mostly LinkedIn? Because it's not the platform where I'm at daily, like hardly ever there, but I always hear it's growing and it's really good. So why LinkedIn for you?
Yeah, so I mean, right now I run my business on all channels. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, email, like I'm on all over the place. But when I first started creating content on social media, which was February 2020, I had just quit my job, and the first platform I logically went to was actually LinkedIn for me. And the reason for that was I already had a bit of a network, so I wasn't starting from zero. And the second piece was I wanted to build a paper trail of what I was doing as an entrepreneur because I had a feeling I would maybe need to go back to corporate, which I did. So that's why I'm a two times corporate dropout. But I wanted to make sure that, a future employer didn't think that I was just doing nothing. And so I thought I'll just talk about my projects openly. And so it was actually like I didn't even think about any other platform. I was on Twitter for a little bit, but LinkedIn ended up being the place where I really got traction because not a lot of people were talking about entrepreneurship. Not a lot of people were talking about, starting business ideas openly, especially talking about things that didn't work out or talking about the early stages, especially as a first time entrepreneur when like everything just looks really bad. Like your landing pages are just really weird and you just don't know anything. And so I was just kind of talking about that phase. And so that was why I ended up really solidifying on LinkedIn. And then people just wanted more help as I was growing on LinkedIn. People started asking me questions, and it just was a place where I kept getting results. And then it wasn't until May 2022 when I was back in my corporate, my second corporate, kind of like my second time, but being back in corporate, that I decided to get on TikTok. And that was kind of the
Mm.
beginning of my, multi-channel strategy, if you will.
Mm. So twice corporate dropout. What happened first time and what kind of corporation? Because there are so many. And yeah, why did you quit twice?
Yeah. So the first time I was working in financial services in like a fintech company. So I mean, I started my career working in customer service operations, but I moved into tech in 2017, and I was working at this company for 3 years, and then I had a great time. I was kind of in like an innovation team. We were doing some kind of new software, and so I kind of got that taste of, doing something new, putting something new in the market. And then after that job, I actually had another job, and that's the one that I quit the first time, where I was actually running an innovation team where we were coming up with multiple product ideas and testing them in the market. And it was actually my dream job. I loved it. It was so exciting. It was just very entrepreneurial. I hadn't done anything like that before. And right when we were getting ready to pitch our amazing product idea that I still think needs to exist in the world, the leadership team changed and
Mhm.
they decided they didn't want to run the innovation team anymore. And so they cut our team. And at that point, they offered to, have me be, I was a product manager. So they offered for me to become a, kind of regular product manager running a part of the existing product. But by then I knew that I was gonna go out on my own into entrepreneurship. But I guess the timeline kind of got shrunk because I was like, I'll just learn a little more. And then suddenly they were like, we're not doing this anymore. And I was like, I think this is a sign. And it's so weird because I was in corporate for 7 years. I never thought about leaving the job. That would like, I'm an immigrant too. My parents are professors. It's like, just get the job and stay in the job. That was always really drilled into me. And so the idea of quitting my job was very extreme. But it was like over the course of a week, I just got a ping and I was like, I need to leave. And so I came home to my husband and I was like, I'm going to quit my job. And he's like, okay. And so within
Good
a
for
week, I
you.
just quit it. Yeah, I was like, I think I just need to do something crazy and I knew that if I tried to do entrepreneurial projects on the side of a job, I felt like I wouldn't have enough time or I wouldn't put as much time into them because I had this job as a security. So I almost wanted to cut the
Mm,
security net and just, or the safety net and just throw myself into the deep end where I would be essentially forced to figure things out. And I was forced to figure things
wow.
out.
You
So
forced
that's
yourself.
the yeah, that's the first time. And then the second time was I had done 19 months on my own as an entrepreneur. After quitting that first time, I tested 6 different product ideas. Everything either failed or I decided I just wasn't in love with it. So I abandoned it. And then I burnt out after 19 months. So I actually had to go back to a job. I was just exhausted. And I just didn't have the energy for more ideas anymore. And so I went back into a job. And this time it was again, actually financial services because it was a company I was kind of involved with previously that I knew from a distance. So they hired me. And then the whole time I basically just kept thinking about all the things that I'd done wrong and how I would do them differently this time and, how nice it would be to just, try it again. And then 10 months later, it's like, it's just got to me again. I started my TikTok in May 2022. And so I started building again, like another audience, and people started asking me for help with LinkedIn. And then in September, that's kind of when it all clicked. I was like, I'm going to go into coaching. I'm going to go into being a service provider. And this is what I'm going to, I actually have like a demand in the market. I have authority. Things are actually lining up. I'm not doing something random that doesn't make sense. And so I was like, and by then I'd already quit corporate once. So I was like, this is easy. I'll just quit
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good. So the first time it was the product. You wanted to test the product, sell the product when you started your own thing. And the second time around, the coaching and the LinkedIn. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So, like organically. But also, I just want to admit that it's really great that like you burned out, but you went back to job and you weren't like ashamed or afraid or something. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go back, and then a second time around, okay, I'm gonna try this again. So, how is this working out for you now?
Yeah, it's working out great, honestly. Yeah, the first time round was so torturous because I mean, I was a first-time entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was doing. And also it was the beginning of COVID because when I first quit my job, it was February 2020. And so I literally quit my job and then a month later, the world shut
And the
down.
world quit on you.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, what does this mean? And so it was really hard, especially as an extrovert. I'm very social and I had to be in lockdown and I was trying to build these businesses and it just was really, really hard. So it was just very emotionally difficult because everything's new. You don't know how to build a landing page. You don't know how to send an email. Like you don't really know how to talk on social media. You don't know. I knew how to interview customers and build products, but when it's your idea, it's just so much more emotional. So I found that I got down on myself a lot easier the last time round. And I just got so exhausted because it was like, everything was like a whole new adventure to figure out, right? But the second time round, I had that experience emotionally and also just tactically. I knew how to throw up a landing page really quickly. I was into marketing. I understood sales and stuff like that. So it felt like every little task wasn't as draining type of thing. Like you could kind of like
Exactly.
stack a few things
Yeah.
up and you're like, okay, like I can get a funnel going without freaking out type of thing. And I think I found my strength, which is really like leading people, coaching people, inspiring people, creating content, selling through content. I'm obsessed with content. I love going live. I love just like speaking in front of people. And so I do a lot of group programs. And so I think I found the thing that actually is my advantage. And I've now been in it so long that, it's been kind of like 19 months plus, like I guess, like 13 months or something, or 15 months now with this round. So it's like I'm so deep in that there's like no doubt that I'm ever gonna leave. Like, you know what I mean? When you're in there long enough, you're kind of just like, this is it. Like, I don't
Yep.
care how long it takes to build to
Yeah.
a certain level. It's like I'm just in because the job is just not an option for me. So yeah, way better this time. Still a bunch of challenges as always. It never really gets like, it gets easier in some ways, but some things just never get easier. But I think
Yeah.
I've built thicker skin. Yeah.
Definitely. It's also like, well, yeah, there are so many things to do. I'm also looking at the questions about 6 channels, but first, before that, what do you think makes good content? Because you're obsessed with content, so what makes good content?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I usually talk about a combination of three things. So it's strategy, creativity, and then soul. So strategy is, literal strategy, like especially if you're trying to sell. I mean, anything that you're doing with your content, even if you're just trying to get visibility, you're trying to convert, whatever you're doing, you need a strategy because you can't just throw spaghetti on the wall. So that's kind of like nothing new, right? The second piece is creativity. So this is where you're really putting your personality into it. You are doing things that are different to basically grab attention, right? Because these days there's so much content, and I think it's so important to constantly be doing creative things that are going to go against the grain. They're going to grab people's attention. They're going to be unusual, and they're also going to get people to remember you, right? So I feel like there's a lot of vanilla content out there that it's like you read it and then you forget about it. But
Mm.
the creative piece, and combined with the strategic buyer psychology piece, but the creative piece is like you post things that are just people are like, whoa, like I've never seen it like that before, right? And then the third piece of it, which is soul, which is something I kind of started thinking a lot about in the past 6 months, is really putting your deep like soul into your content. This is like very deep kind of messaging that resonates on a very kind of like soul level with your clients, right? So it could be vulnerability, it could be just telling very, like sharing some kind of strong opinions that, are really deep down in your core. I think a lot of people are not yet at the point where they're really sharing. Because sometimes when I create content, like it literally does, I don't know if like I'm just the only one who's crazy over here, but I literally feel like I'm putting my soul into my content. Like this is something that I truly believe. And it's almost like a cathartic experience because my content
Totally.
literally becomes a self-expression. It's like what I truly believe. And it's not just that I'm trying to get engagement or convert. My content is so much more than that. Like it's really me kind of like offloading my deepest thoughts. And
Mm.
so I like to think about good content as being those three
Yeah.
elements.
Tell us an example where you have used this and how it has worked.
Absolutely, yeah. So I have a really good example where there was one evening, actually, I had randomly decided to write a LinkedIn post. It was probably about like a month and a half ago. That's kind of a really good example that comes to mind is and it's usually something that comes from like a story that you're telling and you just have a very deep emotional connection to it, and it's something that kind of like drives you. So when I was in tech, when I first got into tech as a product manager, this was the post that I was talking about. I basically got into this job as a business analyst. And then, the next day they're like, we're going to need you to learn how to code. And I was like, I don't code. Like, I'm pretty sure you've seen my resume. Like, I did definitely not JavaScript. Like, you've got the wrong person. And they're just like, yeah, like, we're going to need you to code. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, this is not, they're not backing down. And so there was like this one night where I was given a task to code something in JavaScript, and the next day it was going to be put into the live production site of the client. We didn't have enough developers. It was like a very lean team. And so it was like, just get it done, right? So I remember there was this one night, and it still actually really like makes me emotional because it was such a pivotal moment in my career and my life where I stayed up at the office. I stayed at the office late until like 8, 9 p.m. trying to make this code work. And it was like 4 or 5 hours that it just wouldn't work. And I thought I was going to get into trouble. It was like so stressful. No one was there. And then in the end, finally, I was like crying at one point because it was so stressful. I was like, I can't do JavaScript. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, why did I get myself into this situation? And then I figured it out. And it's so much. And so what I talk about on this LinkedIn post is I start with the painful moment where I'm like, I start the hook with literally like, I remember crying at my desk in my corporate job, like trying to make JavaScript work as someone who literally has no idea how to code. And like my message to the world and why that moment is so, so pivotal at my soul level is that this isn't just about learning how to code. And the way that I kind of mentioned it, the way that I explained it was you're actually what happened that night is I saw a version of me that I didn't know existed. I literally did not think that I would be able to code. That was just something that was not part of my reality. But because I persevered and I was forced to kind of keep going, I ended up uncovering a version of me that had I not gone there, I would have never. And when I started coding, like that's actually what led me into entrepreneurship because I was like, oh my gosh, like I can do this. Like I can do so much more than I think. And I have this overarching belief that people place really limited beliefs on themselves. And so my message to my audience was, don't give up because like this is so much more than like your goals. This is actually your life. Like you could become a completely different version of a person. And I got really great engagement, but the thing that really like touched me was there was a woman who'd been following me for a while. She commented on the LinkedIn post, but she also DM'd me and she was like, this post has changed my life. And she was like,
Oh.
I've screenshotted it. I've put it on my phone background. I'm going through like literally the lowest point in my entrepreneurial journey. I'm thinking about going back to a job. She ended up going back to a job, which is totally fine, but she was in this very broken
Mm.
state. And she was like, I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. And like that post really helped me believe again, right? And that to me is like massive. Like I literally poured my soul out into that content. And did it bring in sales? No. Did that specific post?
Not at
No.
that specific moment.
Yeah, but like maybe it impacted someone later to,
Of course.
follow me or something like that. But to me, like sales are cool, but like I think when you can actually make an impact,
Mm.
that's when things really matter, at least with content. And that's where like a lot of people talk about strategy and some people will talk about creativity too, but I think the soul piece is really where you are actually making a difference on your
Yeah.
audience and really coming straight. Like it's something that's like unmatched for me.
I have always used well, for some time I was just posting, when we are all start, it's a little bit shy, just more pictures, just hashtags, not much. But then at some point I realized it's like a therapy because doing lives, it's like talking to yourself. You're very observant, you're very self-aware. You use less words than what you normally think about some things when you have just blubber in your head. When you talk to someone, you're more strategic without thinking about the outcome, but still like, hey, if I'm talking and I'm thinking about my audience, it's a different kind of a speech. But then I've done a lot of so you were asking actually, and I somehow missed that. Do I have podcasts in English? I used to have a podcast channel which was all about um, transformational events in people's lives, which was so, someone got changed because they did a breath work, someone, did a plant medicine, or there was just awakening of something through some event. So that was my previous podcast. But now because I've more moved into this entrepreneurial way and path, so I want to make a podcast in this way. But what you're saying about the soul, it's just it is really healing when you do posts like that. It's kind of like you heal yourself. You're old. I've cried at JavaScript as well. You're not the only one. I think it was more Kubernetes or some of those like little whale icon thingies that I'm like, but I did 2 IT courses last year. And like you were saying, I didn't know I can do so much. I didn't know that this is possible. I thought it's just for the smart people, just for some extraordinary something geeks. And I even participated in a hackathon, which was amazing when you try to do something for 8 hours and like you do it. And it does bring out another part of you, which before that, I was thinking about that part. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not geeky enough to do this. And then you do it, and then you realize, oh, well, I'm this as well. So it is really healing. So whoever is listening to the podcast, and if you're thinking like these parts don't matter, they do matter. They're amazing. And especially if you write or if you reflect on that, like you're saying, you're pouring your soul out. It's like, wow, it's healing for you. And then someone else finds themselves in this content. And that's a content with like, we call it in Latvian, we have like PVN, which is like the tax added text. It's like the content with like extras. It's just the content. It's not just for something just to like inspire you. It's like, hey, I went through this, maybe you're going through this. And the people, like you're saying, they get into your DMs. And this is why when people come to buy from me, they're super connected. I don't have to warm them up, and probably you do too if you create a content like that, because
Mhm.
it connects instantly. They come with their biggest problem in the DM. They tell you that, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it would take me a little bit of time to like, to open up so much. But they open up and they're like straight to like, what's the best for me? Like, tell me what to do. So it's worth
Totally.
it. It's worth it. You
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
to do all the small talk, all the warming up, everything. So it's totally so amazing. I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think it can inspire others as well who are listening to the podcast to go for that vulnerability and that post that maybe they've been thinking, well, like maybe it's too personal or something.
I
Yeah.
think it's also like to me that I love that you talked about healing, by the way, because I talk a lot about like and I need to talk about it more, but like healing through your content, that's something that I've
Mm.
definitely like been, like thinking a lot about and talking about. But I think the other piece is like when you actually create content that feels like a self-expression, it gets to be fun because I feel like a lot of business owners look at content as this thing they like have to do and it's annoying and it feels very
Oh,
forced.
yeah.
But the reason is because you're not actually saying what you really want to say and you're
Mm.
creating this vanilla content. Like I would also be bored if I was creating vanilla content, right?
Right?
So I'm really trying to like, it upsets me when people are like,
Mm.
oh, like I hate content. I'm like, don't, like, that's such a negative relationship. Like my favorite, like one of my private clients right now, the reason I like literally fell in love with her as soon as she reached out to me, because she was like, I love content. I was like, oh my God, like
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. That's all I need. This is like
Right?
totally workable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also when people are like, I hate content, like I want to turn it around for them. But like people who are
Mm.
like, I love creating content, I just needed to do this. I'm like, okay, we've already done like 80% of the
Yeah.
work. Now it's just about implementing. Like, so yeah.
All right. So the next question, how do you create content across 6 channels without burning out? So you already mentioned LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. What else is there?
So I have LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and then I repurpose, like I just auto post everything to Facebook. I'm not really
Mm.
on Facebook, but like I auto post everything over there. So like,
Yeah.
and some people find me there occasionally. And then YouTube and email.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's
cool.
like actually LinkedIn, yeah. LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, email. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know about you, but I feel like I hear from a lot of people when they're thinking of adding a new channel, they feel like their kind of objection is now I need to go create content for that
Mm.
channel, which is not wrong in terms of like you have to now start posting content on that channel. But a lot of my clients, when they approach me, they look at these different platforms as completely separate. So they're like, I have my Instagram content ideas, I have my LinkedIn content ideas. And they don't quite like, they understand that you can repurpose content, but I think sometimes they just get a bit of a block, especially with LinkedIn. A lot of people feel like LinkedIn is this completely separate thing, and they're always just like, what do I post on LinkedIn? And I'm like, it's the same thing you're posting on Instagram. Like, you just format it differently. There's different maybe types of content that might perform better on LinkedIn. Like, you're never going to be able to
Mm.
perfectly repurpose everything, but I find that not a lot of people yet quite understand that you can take one piece of content and just repurpose it across multiple channels in different formats with different like visuals, different length and stuff like that. So my biggest way of repurposing is a combination of just being really smart with like having like thinking about content as central content ideas with a strategy and then repurposing. And there's also automation. Like I use repurpose.io to just, flip things quicker, like put my TikTok onto Instagram. I do like automation. So I'm not like downloading the video and doing manually everything. But the first piece is like one content strategy and ideas, and then disperse it across multiple channels. But the other thing that I've been doing a lot over the past year that has been really effective, because you can actually burn out really easily if you're now repurposing everything everywhere, because now it's like you're duplicating everywhere. That's a lot of work. But what I actually do is I will post pieces of content on certain channels, and then depending on how they perform, I'll then repurpose them to another channel.
Mm.
So I'm not necessarily just saying all my, like, let's say I have like, 30 content ideas for the month. That's 30 content ideas on 6 platforms. No, it's going to be like, put most of them on some platforms. And then as I see things perform, like for example, something goes really good on TikTok, then I'm gonna go put that video on LinkedIn, right? I'm not gonna put every single one of my like 30 TikTok videos that I create in a week on LinkedIn, but I'm gonna see what performs. What are people asking in my DMs on different
Yeah.
channels? It's almost like a data
Mm.
oriented
Mm.
repurposing approach.
Let's talk about automation there because you already mentioned a little bit, but so which ones like have you automated? You said from TikTok to Instagram. What else is there? And just tell a little bit. So, because I think that's also can bring a clarity for those people who think, oh my gosh, it's like so much work. And it's like, hey, no, it's not.
Totally, yeah. So, the only really kind of main automation that I use right now is repurpose.io, which is like repurposing software. So you just like plug in all your social media platforms, and the workflows that I have going. The one workflow is repurposing my TikToks to Instagram Reels. And
Mm-hmm.
I do it manually just because I don't want, like, I do a lot. Like TikTok is like my volume-based platform. Like I'll just basically just record as much as I can, just put stuff in there, see what performs. And then I'll go into repurpose.io and I'll pick ones that I feel like are going to be good for Instagram based on how they performed, what my audience on Instagram likes. So I just literally go in and I just hit schedule. Sometimes I change the caption a bit, and then it's
Okay.
just like
Mm,
posts. So it's, instead of like downloading the TikTok, scheduling it in Instagram, I just literally, it's almost like one click
mm,
type and then it goes to Instagram. So that's like one workflow that I have going. Another workflow I have going is Instagram lives to YouTube.
mm-hmm.
It's basically, I'll just kind of
Also on the
make a
same
bit of,
platform?
yes,
Yeah.
repurpose.io. Exactly. Yeah. It's just like basically like, I think they call them like, I think it's workflows or like recipes or something. And you can, I also put my Instagram lives, and this is what repurpose.io does for me. They put it into Google Drive for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
just like have it downloaded if I ever want to chop up clips or something. which I haven't had time to do yet, but like it's sitting there if I'm like, oh, that live, I want to like
Yeah.
grab
Yeah.
piece of it. So I'm using repurpose.io to put TikTok to Instagram Reels, Instagram lives to YouTube lives, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
about to start putting TikToks to YouTube Shorts,
Mm.
which I literally
Oh,
just need,
that's so good.
which is huge, right? And
Yep.
so you're
Yep.
literally, because I've been trying to get on YouTube Shorts forever, and I finally got
Mm.
repurpose.io like a few months ago. And so now I literally just need to spend 15 minutes setting
Yeah.
up my flow for TikTok to YouTube Shorts.
Mm.
And I'm gonna set it on auto because I don't care about
Yep.
like, I just want to test YouTube Shorts at this point. So
Exactly.
like anything on TikTok, just throw it onto YouTube. And so it's like 15 minutes and I'm now going to be active on another channel. Like it's crazy.
Like
So
sold.
yeah, exactly. I'm just like, do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and the one thing that I really want to kind of mention here for people around YouTube is, so a lot of people, including myself, initially didn't want to get on YouTube because I was like, it's so much work. I have to do these perfect videos and all
Mm.
this
Mm.
stuff. But there was something where I was just like, but I really want to get on YouTube. And I'm always trying to think like, how can I question the rules and how can I just make things work for me anyway? Like, I don't like it when someone's like, oh, like some people say like, oh, like a podcast is so much work, like you shouldn't do it unless you can do all these things. But I know a lot of people who do a podcast in a very minimal way. Maybe it's not perfectly produced, but they're literally putting the
Yep.
podcast out, right? So I'm always questioning like when people are just like, oh, like you have to do these fancy
Mm.
thumbnails on YouTube. I'm like, but do you? Like, but do it can be
Yeah.
better. It's
Yeah.
like, but should you really just not do it at all? And so
Mm.
something that I realized with YouTube is I don't do perfectly produced videos. I used to do a few of them and they took so long. So my strategy, and then people are like, oh, you need to stay consistent with YouTube. If you're not going to post 2 videos a week, it's not worth it. It's a waste of
Mm.
time. And I was like, I'm not so sure because it depends on how you're going to drive the traffic. Because for me,
Exactly.
I drive traffic manually to my YouTube videos. I have a link tree in my TikTok bio and my Instagram bio where I literally say, watch this YouTube playlist. I have like
Mm.
a very specific playlist
Mm.
on my YouTube that's for business owners around like lead generation, stuff like that. And I literally have it in my link tree and I get a lot of volume through TikTok. And so my strategy for YouTube is I have just enough content on there so people can binge me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that this has literally transformed my business has been it's added an additional touch point for my ideal clients. Because I have a lot of people, like I'll tell you that this actually even blew my mind 2 weeks ago. A woman discovered me at an in-person event in Vancouver. She connected with me on LinkedIn. And when she connected with me, she was like, hey, love your stuff. I'm just starting my business right now. Not ready to invest in your services yet, but I'm so glad we connected. I'm like, great. I'm so happy to be connected to you. Then she was like, I binged all your content. It was amazing. I love all your content. I was like, great. And then she also connected with me on Instagram where I was like, hey, like, great to see you here too. She was watching my Instagram stories. And literally 3 days later, she was like, hey, I actually want to ask about your program. Ended up jumping on a sales call with me. And now she's in Mexico, but she's like, literally, she's like, I want to try and figure out how to make this
Mm.
program work. Like my content, because of this multi-channel process, it took a woman from being like not ready to invest to being
Yeah.
like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like I might need this. And it's not even about whether she converts or not. Like, it's not about this individual person, but a lot of people are seeing me across multiple channels and they're
Mm.
binging content in different formats and
Exactly.
in their favorite places. So when they go to YouTube, they're not being distracted by anyone else. They can continue to binge my content. And I'm not consistent on YouTube. Like I barely post on there. I should post a little bit more. But it's like, so this whole rule of like, you need to post consistently, you need to do perfectly produced videos, you need to do thumbnails. My whole playlist that I drive traffic to from TikTok, there are no thumbnails because they're just lives that I just put
Yeah.
there. And so my big thing to people is like, question the rules because they might not apply based on how like you're doing your business, and you might find a loophole that works really well for you, grows your business, but doesn't actually burn you out.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
I get really excited.
Yeah, no, I repurpose a lot as well, and it's just all like whichever platform except the LinkedIn. Maybe I should add.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yes, like you're saying, the YouTube feels like kind of a evergreen thing. It's just sometimes some people start searching for a certain topic and an old video pops up, and then they're like, "Oh,
exactly.
well, this link is not working anymore. Like, where is this program? Where is that?" I had a lady in September. She's like, "Where is that money program that you're talking about?" I'm like, "Which one?" Because it was an old video, and like it was even with the old name and something, but she's like, "Oh, I really want it." I'm like, "Okay, it's here. It's like it's now called like this, and actually like it's on a secret list because I'm not selling it anymore, but if you really want it, like you can have it and with this and this and this." And yeah, and she became a private client for 2 months, and did
Wow.
the program and everything, and it was just from this video that she also like binge watched. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's really great. The same as podcast. I feel that people sometimes are, oh, there's this certain topic that becomes more of like, hey, what about this? And they just search on Spotify, they find my podcast, they listen to it, and then they try to, like they go on Instagram and it's like, hey, I listened to this. Like, where do I find that? I'm like, oh wow, like like how many years ago? And it
Yeah,
hasn't
it's
been that long,
amazing.
but yeah, but it's really good. And about the quality as well, when people are like, like super quality YouTube or the same about podcasts. Okay, now I have like I love this microphone. It's amazing. But I had my $10 headphones. I recorded most of my podcasts through Zoom when I started, and still I do, because the English podcast, there is no way I'm gonna fly to Vancouver to record a podcast with you now. It's like too much hustle. That's too much hustle. But I started like that, and it's just fine. It depends on a topic. If people are really into the topic that you're talking about, I think like for us today, the piece about the topic about the soul and healing, like that's something like super yummy, like super yummy. That's
Yeah,
different. Like I
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
talked with people about this kind of content in this way. So it's very, very interesting. And when people hear that, they're like, it doesn't matter if you are a little bit louder or quieter, if there's like not the best quality of a sound. I've recorded podcasts in Hong Kong on a street because the person was so amazing. He runs this vegan food restaurants, or like plenty of yeah, many restaurants in Hong Kong that are vegan food and that recycle everything. And I met him at the one of his restaurants, and I'm like, "Would you like to record a podcast sometime?" And my friend is like, "Today, because you're leaving today, like you should do a live one." I'm like, "Well, I have my mics in my bag, but like where?" And he's like, "Let's go outside in a park on a staircase." And like squirrels are running around and the birds are chirping. And it was the most amazing because it was so live. It
Yeah,
wasn't like set up or anything. It wasn't like, "Hey,
yeah,
today we're
yeah.
gonna talk about this and this and this and this is which does work well. It's amazing. Like I love the Oh my gosh, like if I was watching Mr. Beast and then thinking about making my YouTube videos, I would probably do zero. Because when you see
Yeah.
something so professional, so well done, and everyone's so engaged, that you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? But for the things that we do, I think it's amazing. And maybe one day, like your Mrs. Beast LinkedIn, and you do like amazing like challenges on LinkedIn and things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing that I really love that there are people out there who have nailed it, you know. Um, and also what you were saying about the content, I recently posted two of the same videos on TikTok and on Instagram, and surprisingly, they were TikTok type videos when you're just like filming yourself from here, when you can
Yeah,
see your nostrils, which is
yeah, yeah.
totally not an Instagram thing. And they were funny, they were sarcastic. And on Instagram, it hit 30K. And on TikTok, it was 2000 views. So it was surprisingly, because it was like a TikTok style something. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this is such a crap. but I'm like, I'm gonna post it anyways. And I posted them both, and it went like viral. Another one as well, on viral on Instagram, but not on TikTok. It hit like 40K. In Instagram, it's now like 70K, which is like, what the heck? Well, because it's usually the other way around, because TikTok gets the most engagement for me. But yeah, it's like, so don't be afraid. Like whoever is listening to the podcast, it's like repurpose, do the again, like we've tried with my sister, do the same video that went viral, like put it on another time, like tweak it a little bit, and then see
Mm.
what's happening, what's going on. Because people sometimes they don't scroll down to, like your 10th post. They look
Yeah,
at like,
yeah,
oh, okay, your name, surname, what you do, check out some links, binge a little bit. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
totally
totally.
like repurposing is the key for like not burning out. Even my old YouTube videos, I post them again. It's like they're
Nice.
super like down. Like if I have like around 1,000 videos now, I think like I just repurpose it because nobody's gonna scroll down 1,000 videos,
Yeah, yeah, totally,
right? But
totally.
they're
Yeah.
all like, if we're talking about this topic, they're all like really great on that. So I'm like, okay, this month I'm selling stuff about, manifestation. So I'm just gonna go all manifestation videos, ding, 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 post them again. It works
Nice.
well. Like people like
I
them.
love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that when you create a lot and for a longer time, it's like because they sleep there, they're like underneath the surface. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a great thing to do, and also like it saves you time, and there's always something like, oh, it's like, oh, there's a new video.
And you have to repeat yourself in your marketing.
Oh
Like
yeah.
even for me, I'm not repeating myself enough. It's like people think like, oh, but like I need to come up with brand new content. It's like, no, like you should just keep talking about the same thing in different ways. That's how you really make an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, and the longer you are in the business or in some of your niches, like I can't relate anymore to the things that I used to talk about at the beginning because they're like, oh yeah, yeah, that used to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then those old videos are really good because I'm talking about it used to be my problem. I used to talk about that. Like what you're saying, like you're not gonna do again this thing on like how you cried over JavaScript. Like it's like let it go and it's gone.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But then you can, like repost it again and again and again, and people are gonna connect with that forever.
Totally, totally.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's really, really good. Okay, do you have a team or an assistant or virtual assistant, or do you run this business by yourself?
That's a really good question. So, I currently don't have an assistant or a virtual assistant or anyone. Like it's just me. My husband helps me a little bit when when I'm stressed enough, and he's like, "Okay, fine, I'll help you." But no, it's just me. But earlier this year, I did have a virtual assistant. I find that it was a little bit too early for me to get a virtual assistant because I find you really have to kind of get clarity on your own workflows and make sure that like when you're bringing on someone that it's clear what they're going to do that's going to actually like, generate additional income for you so that there's kind of like an ROI. I mainly had a VA because my husband had surgery, so I had to take care of him and I just needed to make sure that like someone could, run the business, that type of thing. So that was kind of a large reason why I got a VA, but I don't currently have one and I don't plan to have one for another maybe like 3 to 6 months because I'm in the phase of really kind of narrowing down on what are the things in my business that are really generating kind of like income that are really producing an ROI. And so once I get to that really narrow set of things and things are more, I'm building a new group program that's starting in January. So like once that's kind of like on autopilot, I think then I'll be bringing someone on. But for now, I'm actually doing everything on my own. And I used to struggle to do everything on my own because I was a little slower at doing things. You get used to doing things in the business, but also I was doing too many things that weren't really generating income. And so I feel like now I've gotten more focus. And so I'm more able to just kind of ignore the things that are like really extra and they're not going to make a difference. So yeah, right now it's just me, which is actually pretty crazy sometimes to think about. Like I would think I would have an assistant, but actually I'm doing everything on my own, which I'm really
Mhm.
proud of.
Good. What has been your highest cash month so far, and how did you come to that? Like, was there anything business-wise, strategy-wise, or maybe you were just going to a lot of spa days and relaxing and becoming your best baddie on LinkedIn? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my highest cash month has been $12,000, and that was last month actually in November. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. The way that I did that was I was actually on vacation end of October and beginning of November in Mexico. And it was just a really, I felt very relaxed and I was almost like doing less. So I was forced to do the things that really mattered. And I was just very kind of hyper focused with my content. So I had a few clients come on and usually, usually I find we create content in a way that is almost like kind of mechanical. It's like, okay, today I'm going to post this, tomorrow I'm going to post that, especially if you like batch type of thing. But what I did was I didn't do any batching, I didn't do any planning, and I just purely was kind of posting content or going live to talk about certain topics based on really what was going on in my DMs, what kind of sales calls I was having, who was following me where, again, across those multiple channels. So I was able to kind of like be very laser focused on what these people needed to hear in order to buy from me because I had a very kind of tight
Mm.
kind of relationship with them in the DMs. Like I knew what they were thinking, I knew what they needed to hear to kind of like convert. So it was a bit of a kind of like a laser focused approach with content.
Or more
Um,
like agile.
exactly. Yeah, agile,
It
exactly.
was so
Yeah.
funny when I did IT courses last year and they're like agile thinking I'm like this is what I've been using all of my like since I started my Instagram and all the business that I run through my DMs and everything is just like, oh, this is the problem today, okay, we're gonna solve this.
Yeah, exactly,
You guys,
exactly.
they just call it agile. I can start calling it agile now.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Yeah, so laser
Mm.
focused content. And
Mm.
I think also the other piece is the multi-channel content like has just been something that has been working in the background for me. So I had that set up. So by the time these people who were kind of really hot to buy had discovered me, they were able to quickly binge my content and just warm up really quickly. So I think that was something that just kind of like resulted in a really great
Mm.
result for that month. And then I think the last thing is just like people like to buy from people who have a lifestyle that they want. And I was in
Mhm.
Mexico with my husband. I had just been in Croatia previously, traveling and like running my business from all these places. I was still working in Mexico, but you could see I was very active in my stories. I was sharing everything about like where we were going, like all the street tacos and all the drama. And so I think that showed a lifestyle that I have that I've created with my business. And also, I think it showed a lot of my personality, which is something that I always kind of need to remember to put in my Instagram stories is like sometimes we just end up like selling and talking about our business, but we really need to show our life, which sometimes when we're just like in our home, it's not the most interesting thing,
Mm.
but there's still things that we can share. So I think those are the things that led and I had like high ticket offers, like high ticket one-on-one coaching, high ticket program that I've just been building. So that's the biggest thing. I find a lot of people and I've made this mistake in the past where you have really low ticket offers or not low ticket, but you don't have like you have to get a lot of clients in to make a certain number of
Yeah.
sales. And for me, I've completely switched my business model this year as of like a few months ago to doing really actually only high ticket. And so when I get a client in, it's for a decent commitment. And then a lot of the time, because you're working with someone for longer, they then upsell to continue working with you because you've gotten them really great results. So
Mm.
all of these happen, new clients coming in at high ticket prices, old clients upselling because we've been working for a while. I think that's what all kind of combined into a good cash month. Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations again. No, it's really
Thank
great. And thank
you.
you for also sharing that because I've been asking this on the podcast, and it's very interesting. Like you were saying, like, well, I was on a vacation, and for some it might sound, oh, like should I just go on a vacation? No, but you also explained the difference of like how your content was, how you showed your lifestyle, and it does like for me always like it's such a good sales when I'm on vacation or when I'm just traveling because it's also exciting to like I love looking at other people's stories when they're where there's like when they're somewhere where I haven't been or when they're doing something that oh it's like brand new or maybe I want to try the same thing. It's very exciting. So definitely those who are thinking if oh my gosh I have to go on a vacation how I'm gonna sell oh you're gonna sell out everything.
Yeah, you're just
Yeah.
in a different energy. Like everything just feels easier. Like you just don't
Yeah.
care as much. And I think that's something that's really important. I feel like we get in our heads
Mm.
and we try to over engineer things, but it gets to be a lot simpler if we just kind of like take the pressure off.
Exactly. So tell us what offers do you have now where people can meet you and connect with you? That's the first thing. But then the other, like if they want to study with you, if they want to, study your content, if they want to improve their LinkedIn or other channels or what they can do with you and where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you can find me on most channels. So Instagram, it's contently underscore Lena. So it's like contently underscore Lena. Same with TikTok, contently underscore Lena. Same with YouTube, contently underscore Lena. LinkedIn, you can find me on Facebook if that's your jam. I have an email list too where I share a lot of kind of tips around lead generation, a lot of like storytelling, repurposing content, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, probably maybe like probably most active on Instagram right now, actually, especially in the stories. I'm really loving Instagram these days. So yeah, give me a follow. I'd love to connect with you and chat about what you're doing. And then in terms of how to learn from me, how to, do stuff with me is I have a new program that is launching in January called Content Baddie that I've poured my soul into. I'm super excited about it. It's a 6-month group experience where we will basically help you step into who you really are, your baddie self, into your content so that you can attract super aligned, high caliber clients who feel like besties when you get on Zoom with them and they trust you to, implement great results for them. They upsell quickly, that type of thing. So like dream clients type of vibe for your high ticket offers. I also will be covering a lot of sales in there as well. So it's not just about content, but actually how to convert in the DMs, how to, get sales calls going and that type of thing. So that's like the main thing that I actually have right now. It's like my signature program. That's like the number one way to work with me in 2024. It's going to be absolutely amazing.
Can people
If you
only join in January or also later if they're listening to the podcast later?
Yeah, so it's going to be evergreen. So we're
Okay.
starting in January, so it's a 6-month commitment, but you can start like any point. So it's going to be evergreen. So you can
Mm,
sign. It might be that
amazing.
like you can sign up during a certain time in the month, just so I can kind of like organize the people who are coming in, make sure they have the right onboarding, but you'll be able to get
Mm,
in throughout the year. This is going to be like my thing. I'm going to be running for a very long time. And it's 6 months because I really believe that not enough people are going deep enough into their market research, their ideal client, and really putting in the reps into what kind of
mm,
content truly converts. I find it's really hard to do that in like a month, 3 months, like 6 months is really where I can get to know your business and just really get to the nitty gritty of like what is actually going to
mm.
convert so that you're not posting a bunch of stuff hoping things will work. So yeah, content baddie, that's the vibe. And then I have a free training actually that I'm dropping today that's going to be available on all my links. And it's going to be how to infuse your baddie self into your
Oh,
content to make more sales. So that's kind of like my 5 steps to becoming a content baddie. It applies for Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, what have you. So free training that people can definitely get a bunch of value from. And then if someone is really interested in getting their LinkedIn profile up and running, maybe Monta, who knows? I
Right.
actually have a LinkedIn profile scorecard resource. I don't actually have
Oh,
on my links or my website right now, but you could just send me a DM and I'll send you the landing page for it. But it's basically a little Excel or Google Sheet little tool where it's like a checklist and you audit
mm,
your profile in 5 minutes and it gives you customized feedback on what you need to do to turn your
yeah.
profile into a lead generation machine, essentially. So
Amazing.
yeah, a little bit of LinkedIn help there. So yeah, that's the vibe.
LinkedIn first aid.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, LinkedIn profile first aid.
Oh, I'm loving it. Is there anything that I didn't ask and maybe you want to share with those who are listening to the podcast?
Maybe I'll just share kind of like a mindset thing that has really helped me in the past 6 months. I'm sure a lot of us, meet with imposter syndrome pretty often. It tends to crop up in annoying times and or especially frustration when things don't work out the way that we want them to. Let's say we put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't quite result in the outcome that we wanted and we feel like we failed or something. Something that I really focused on is the idea of you're always one step closer to figuring it out. And this has really helped me because it's so easy to be like, oh, I implemented this email funnel and it didn't work, no one converted, and it's a failure, it's a waste of time. Yes, it might not have generated sales, but now you've implemented an email funnel.
Mm,
Like now you have something you can optimize. Now the next one you create, you're going to know more, right? So it's almost like these silent wins that we don't address, right? Because we want the big wins and that's what we're here for. But this concept of I'm always one step closer has really helped me to calm my nervous system and be like, we didn't
yeah.
waste time. We figured something out. There's a learning there. It's going to compound. So maybe that's something that's helpful for
Mm,
people to think about the next time they're feeling a little down on themselves, but need to remember that you're always leveling up.
totally. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, silent wins that actually they all put the puzzle pieces together so you can have those big, well, or at least like visible wins. Because like you're
Totally,
saying,
totally.
building a funnel for the first time or building up your website or email sequence, oh my gosh, it's a lot.
It's painful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for being a guest here and sharing your knowledge and sharing your insights, especially on, yeah, such a topic like LinkedIn.